Hey, I'm Mike Underwood with Cougar Chemical. We're going to go ahead and show you how to do a headlight restoration. We've got a Mercedes-Benz right here. Customer brought it in. They want the headlights restored. So the first step in the process is going to be we're going to go ahead and mask off the headlights. I've got this one right here. It's already masked off. And really what you're going to do is you're just going to take your masking tape, follow all the edges, make sure that you get the masking tape underneath the paint. That way when you're going with your sandpaper and you're wet sanding the light, you don't chip any of the paint or sand any of the paint and damage it. So yeah, once you get your headlights masked off, then you're going to go to your next step of the headlight restoration process. Edit out, yeah. And we can
use it.
Yeah.
Kind of bypass
a lot of. All right. Alright, so now that I've got the headlights masked off, we're going to go ahead and start with the first step of the process. There's a couple things that I do to make my restoration go faster. One of them being I'll set out all my sand grit paper in order. That way I can go from each one fairly quickly. I got all my supplies laid out. The first sandpaper that we're going to use, we're going to go ahead and wet sand the lights, and we're going to start off with the 320 grit sanding discs. The key to sanding the lights is to make sure you get a nice even sanding on both lights. So you want the surface to be even all the way around on the light, and so we're going to go ahead and do that and show you how to do that right now. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and apply some water. I just got water in a quart spray bottle, and then we'll start sanding away. As you're sanding, what you're going to want to do is to get better life out of your sanding pads, you're going to want to go ahead and spray them off in between. And then what you can do is you see a bunch of buildup right here. This is all the plastic that we're scraping away and sanding off. You're going to want to go ahead and spray that off. And then you'll keep working towards getting that nice even. So you can see small areas that are missed right here. See how that's not even? When what you want to do is you want to hit all those areas and make your sanding completely even. Alright, so that one's good. Alright.
so I know what it looks like.
Alright, so we finished the 320 grit sandpaper. We're going to go ahead and move on now to the 500 grit sandpaper. This is going to be the second step on the sanding. We're going to do the same thing we did the first step. We're going to go ahead and wet sand with the 500 grit sandpaper. We're going to hit the entire headlight, make sure everything's nice, smooth, and even. And then once we get there, we'll continue the process and we'll move on to the next sandpaper. Alright, we finished the 320 grit, then we did the 500. We're ready to go to the 800 grit sandpaper. It's going to be step 3, is the 800 grit sandpaper. And we're just going to do what we've been doing before. We're going to wet sand, make sure everything's smooth, and then once we're done, we'll be ready to go on to the next grit. Alright, so we just finished the 800 grit sandpaper. We're ready to move on to 1000 grit. We're just going to follow the same process. We're going to wet sand again. The 1000 grit and the 3000 grit sandpapers, unlike the other grits, these ones actually have a little bit of foam in between them. It gives you a little bit of cushion in between the tool that you're using and the headlight that you're sanding. Another thing with these ones, they'll break apart a little bit quicker than the other sanding pads. So you might need to use 1 or 2 per headlight. Just keep an eye on it while you're sanding the headlight, and if it looks like the pad's breaking apart, then just swap it out for a new one. Now that we've finished the 1000 grit sandpaper, we're ready to go to the 3000. Once again, we're just going to wet sand, make sure everything's smooth, and then we'll be ready to go to the next step. Alright, so we finished step 5, which was a 3000 grit sandpaper, and now we're ready to start compounding our headlights. The first thing you're going to want to make sure you do before you start using the compound is you're going to want to make sure you get your headlights nice and dry, and you're going to want to make sure you get all that material, the leftover material, removed from the headlights. So I'm going to go ahead and wipe these things down and make sure they're nice and clean, and then we'll start compounding them. Okay, so now that we've dried off our headlights, we're ready to start applying our compound. We're going to start out with using the Ultra Cut compound, the 105. It's a heavier grit than the finishing compound, so this is going to help buff out our scratches from the sandpaper quicker than the finishing compound would. A tip and a trick is when you're applying this, you're going to want to put the compound onto your wool cutting pad, and then what you're going to want to do is after you apply it to the pad, you're going to want to make sure that you spread it over the headlight and kind of just rub it in. And once you get your compound rubbed in, when you go to start your tool up, whether it be a dual action sander or just a rotary sander, you want to make sure that your pad's applied to the headlight. If you don't, what's going to happen is these Velcro pads will fly off, and they'll also sling compound all over the car and all over yourself. So you want to make sure that that you're applying a little bit of pressure in between your tool and the headlight and the pad. Alright, so we just finished step 6, which was our Ultra Cut compound. Now we're going to go to our finishing compound, which is the mirror glaze. And we're going to apply it very similarly. Same concept. You're going to use the finish compound pad, not the wool one. You'll use this is the black finishing compound pad. So you go ahead and load that up with compound, just like we did the wool pad, and then follow the same steps. You're going to want to add the compound to the pad, spread it over the headlight, and then keep pressure on the pad That way the pad doesn't fly off and the compound doesn't get slung everywhere. Alright, we just finished with step 7. We put the mirror glaze compound on. We cleaned up the headlights. Everything looks good. We did a good job. They look brand new again. The customer's going to be happy. So that's Headlight Restoration. Made easy for you.